How Things Work Toilets by Joanne Mattern. Wow, that's a pretty snazzy toilet. Looks like it's maybe got a bidet hooked up. It's all fancy and gold, and wow, matching gold trash can. My goodness. Down the drain. Have you ever thought about how a toilet works? What really happens when you flush? Toilets can... Yeah, it's a cat. Toilets can be fancy or plain, but most of them have two main parts. The tank is the top part. You sit on the bowl. Both the tank and the bowl are full of water. When you flush, a chain pulls up the flapper in the tank. Whoosh! Water goes down a hole called the flush valve. See? Comes down through the tank into the bowl here. Okay, and then down the siphon. Now water rushes into the bowl. It flows down the hole into a tube called a siphon. Water and waste are sucked through the siphon. Did you know about 2 gallons of water rushes into the bowl every time you flush? How does the toilet fill back up? Well, as the water level falls in the tank, so does the float. Here's the float over here. It pulls the refill valve open and the water pours in. The tank fills and the float moves up again, and that turns off the water. Did you know airplane toilets are not filled with water? Air sucks the waste into a hole, then it goes into a big tank. Once the plane lands, a worker vacuums out the tank. Where does it go? When you flush the toilet, the waste does not stay in your house. Every toilet is connected to a larger system. A pipe carries the waste out of the house. A plumber installs the pipes under a house. They carry waste away from the toilet. What do we think of as waste? What does waste mean? It can be poop or pee or vomit.
But only because when you were tubing the pipe, when you don't go pee.
Some toilets are connected to a sewer system. A pipe connects each building to a bigger pipe under the street. That pipe carries waste to a treatment plant. The wastewater is cleaned. A worker tests the water here at the treatment plant. Some houses have a septic system. A pipe carries the waste down from the toilet, and it carries the waste to a big tank under the ground. The waste gets broken down in the tank. The water drains out into the yard, and everything else stays in the tank. A septic tank must be pumped out every 1 to 3 years. Before the toilet, people have always had to get rid of... Yeah, that poor guy. People have always had to get rid of their waste. The ancient Romans had a sewer system. Later, some castles even had toilets, although they were more drop toilets where they just went straight down, which means the smell could also go straight up. But the toilets in the castle were more like indoor outhouses than modern toilets. A lot of people went to the bathroom in chamber pots. Then they dumped the chamber pot out the window. Look out below! Oh, that poor man is being covered in human waste. Oh dear. And it's hitting him apparently right in the face. Oh, that poor guy. Okay, this is almost like a teacup, but it's much bigger, and people would squat down or sit down on a chamber pot and go potty. The flush toilet was invented in 1596, and the tank was on the ceiling. Pulling the chain on the tank released the water down into the bowl. Still, most people continued to use the chamber pot. Almost 200 years later, Alexander Cummings made a better toilet. He created the S-shaped pipe under the bowl, and this kept bad smells from coming up through the pipes. Building a better toilet. Toilets can use a lot of water, and that can be wasteful. Some newer toilets use fewer gallons for each flush. A dual flush toilet has one button for a small flush and another button for a big flush. Now you know how toilets work. These simple machines get a dirty job done right. Yeah. So from 500 to the 1500s, people used chamber pots. In 1596, Sir John Harington invents the flush toilet. In the mid-1900s, indoor toilets became popular in the United States. And in 1993, dual flush toilets became available. There's a science experiment you could do, which we're super not going to do. But here, let's go back and we'll talk about that S joint real quick. This is called...
Maybe missed.
See how it's in the shape of an S?
We just missed the page.
That's okay. We'll go back to it. See, all right, here we go on the toilet. See, this is where the bad smells could potentially come up. But because of this curve here, and it's filled with water, the smells can come up, but they can't get past the water. That water stops the smell. When you put a little bit of water into a toilet, it can just raise it, but you have to get it over the point where it goes past the curve. So if you dump a bunch in, it'll go down and suck a bunch of it down, and then it'll go back to this level. And that curve was very important. This is what keeps it so our normal modern toilets aren't stinky like a straight drop-down outhouse, which can be quite smelly. Do you ever wonder how astronauts use the toilet in space? For one thing, they have to fasten themselves to the toilet to keep from floating away. A space toilet uses a rush of air instead of water to flush waste away. Then a vacuum sucks up the waste. Liquid waste is sent out into space. Solid waste is dried and stored in a special bag that is brought back to Earth. The toilet on the International Space Station cleans the wastewater so that astronauts can drink it. Yeah. The end. What a great book.